this is not you, then let me know, but I can almost guarantee that there's something in your life that you know so much about, that you have a perfect plan, and yet for some odd reason you are unable to execute. You have this thing set out perfectly. You know exactly how to do it. You know exactly what's required of you to reach your desired goal. You know exactly how to optimize the process, and yet you just can't do it. These could be things like health, dieting, sleep, so your sleep hygiene, just anything in life, something that you know how to optimize, you've researched it well, you care about it, but you just can't succeed. And the reason is very peculiar, but once I explain myself, it'll make a lot of sense to you. The reason is because you know so much. Because you know so much, you put yourself into a state of paralysis. It's like being in a shopping center and having 50 options for something versus having 2 options. It generally doesn't matter all that much, and we think optionality is better, and so naturally we think more options the better, we can now pick what's best for us. But what ends up happening is we end up in a state of paralysis, and because there's so many things available to us and there's such a opportunity for perfection and optimization, that we end up not getting anything right, because we end up in a state of paralysis. We can't even make a good decision in the first place at all. Whereas if we just have 2 things available to us, we can make a simple choice and then go for it. Now, the reason why this is important is because when we have so many things on the shelf, these are generally not important things in our life, and so optionality is a complication. Structure, intense structure, optimization can be a complication when it's not the forerunner in your life, when it's not the thing that you care the most about. It sometimes is more beneficial to have reduced structure, to have less optionality. So people face the problem then of setting the bar too high for things in their life when that particular thing that they're trying to achieve in is not the most important thing to them. So I often talk about dreaming bigger and knowing what life is available to you. In fact, that was my last video. But so often we forget what is truly important, and we end up thinking that everything is equally important. Now, this comes from a mindset of wanting to be better, of wanting to improve, of wanting to optimize, of wanting to be the best. And so what we do is we classify our lives or compartmentalize it into the different parts. We think there's work, there's health, there's relationships, there's this, there's that. And then we think, okay, in each of these things, I want to excel. So in terms of work, I know I've got to do this, this, this. In terms of relationships, these things are important for me, and this is how I can optimize them for maximum social success. And then in my health, I know it's dieting and exercise. And dieting, I'm going to calorie track, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get the best supplements, and then I'm going to have the best workout program, go to the gym, and I'm going to do this, this, and this in this day, and then on that day of the week I do that, that, and that. And then all that ends up happening is there's too much commitment, and we end up committing to nothing. We set the bar so high in all areas of our life, intending to be great in every area, and what ends up happening is we end up being average in all areas and great in none. So we seek perfection everywhere, and we get mediocrity everywhere and perfection nowhere. So don't aim so high in things that aren't the most important thing for you. Remember, you can get 80% of the results from 20% of the effort. This is a principle that's been going around the internet for a long time, and I'm sure you've heard about it, and it really is true, which is why it's something that's stuck, and which is why it's something that you hear about so often. So think about it like this. In our lives, we have a finite amount of effort as a resource that we can allocate to things in our life. And we think that Well, we know that we want the best for ourselves, naturally, and we want the best for ourselves across the board. And so what we do is we devise a plan to succeed in all areas. And what then happens is now we have to allocate resources. And because we want to succeed to the maximum extent in all areas, we distribute resources relatively equally. And so what happens then is nothing gets enough resources. Nothing gets enough of our effort and time. And then nothing ends up being amazing. So don't apply a 100% approach in all areas of your life. Apply an 80-20 approach in most areas of your life, in areas that aren't your primary goal, and then in the thing that's most important to you, that's the one that you can double down on, that's the one that you can optimize for. And for most of us, the primary thing that's important to us is work. So if you're a student, that's studying. If you have a career, that's your job. If you have a business, it means putting time and effort into making sure that your business is successful and you're a successful entrepreneur. These are the things that are generally the primary goals of us humans. It's okay if that's not your primary goal. You can just think of this in terms of just replacing then work for whatever works for you, or for whatever is most important for you. But generally, work is our primary goal in life and takes the most amount of effort and time. Yes, we might say that our family is more important, but it doesn't take as much effort to maintain a healthy relationship than it does to maintain a progressive and strong career or business. Those things require a lot more attention from us, and in fact, sometimes we need that in order to get money, in order to support the people who rely on us and who we care about. So sometimes we have to actually go and seek the work thing first. Just so the idea that I'm getting here is our work lives generally require the most amount of time from us. And so they should get the most amount of time from us. And these are the things that yield the highest results in our life and the things that we care the most about. And yet we tend to have extravagant plans in all areas of our life, and then we don't end up succeeding in our work. And it's because we have spread ourselves too thin. So let me use an example that I think a lot of people will be able to relate to. And this is the example of health. So I'm going to assume now that your primary goal is a successful career or work in general, to do the best that you can in your work, whatever it is that you commit yourself to day-to-day basis. Okay. Then I'm going to assume that health is something else that's important to you. Health is generally considered to be important to everyone. Now, a lot of us know exactly what to do to be healthy. And we know that if we are to maximize muscle gains in the gym, then we should follow a certain split. We do push-pull legs, or we do a full body split or bro split, or whatever it is. We have some idea of what's best for us. And we apply science-based techniques into our workouts. And then we know that, okay, if I'm low on time in a certain day, it's better to do compound movements, because then compound movements can hit a larger area and more muscles get worked. And so that's more bang for my buck if I'm only going to do one exercise for that particular muscle group. And so you think, okay, compound movements are best. And then if I do have more time, then it's probably best to do a whole lot of isolation workouts, because then I can not sacrifice on any given thing and make sure I get the best possible gains in each particular muscle. And so then I think isolation, and we have these things going on in our heads, and we think, okay, diet is important. I need calorie tracking. Okay, calorie tracking is an important element of it. Okay, and on top of calorie tracking, I need to eat healthily. I need to cut these things out, and I need to not eat waffles and this and that. And then what ends up happening is it becomes so restrictive, we end up in a state of paralysis, and then we hate this thing that's important to us. We hate pursuing a healthy lifestyle because it means so much commitment, so much sacrifice. And then we force ourselves and we exert an extensive amount of willpower, and this detracts from other areas of our life, from our work that we truly do deem to be the most important thing for us. So if you just toned it back and realized this is a principle on dieting. I forget the guy's name. Wow, I wish I could remember it. I'll write it in the description. He wrote a book on, now let me not forget the book's name as well. I think it's Food is Not the Enemy, or something like that. Anyway, the core thesis of the book is eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Okay, and that dramatically simplifies all these extensive, particular, and optimizing techniques that we have for our diet, and then we end up not doing anything and we just end up eating shit the whole time anyways. But if you just followed that core principle, and then you allowed yourself some leniency from time to time, and you recognize that diet is not the most important thing in my life, and I can get majority of the results from not most of the effort, from 20% of the effort. And so I'm just going to follow this core thesis as my main guiding principle in terms of my diet, and I'll end up getting most of the results, and I won't pay high prices for those results. That's a much better way to go about it. And then in terms of exercise, if you just think, if I go into the gym and I do the exercise that I think is most fun, or even if I think I want to be fitter, instead of, if you dread running, but you know running is the optimal thing to increase your VO2 max and your cardiovascular fitness, then you think, you know what, to hell with the running, I really enjoy playing soccer, or I really enjoy this other sport, or paddle, frisbee, tennis, whatever the hell it is to you, then go and do that thing, because you're going to get most of the results and you're going to enjoy it, and in the long run you will end up being healthier. So the idea here is, if there's something that's important to you, stop making it a top priority, or stop putting it on an equal pedestal as the thing that actually is your true priority. If you want success in that thing that is most important to you, stop elevating these other areas of your life. You need to put them on the back burners, in the back seat. It's not important that you optimize every area of your life, and it is important that you don't, because optimizing every area of your life means you'll be great in none of them. Seek perfection everywhere, you get mediocrity everywhere, and perfection nowhere. That's the core principle that I'm trying to teach you. So find what's important to you, double down on that, and let everything else take a back seat. Obviously have a balanced lifestyle, but let everything else be secondary. It's okay. It's okay for it to be secondary. Secondary doesn't mean you don't care about it. It means that it's not the most important thing. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to not let everything be the most important thing. Because if everything's the most important thing, then nothing is the most important thing. So don't let a focus on secondary things detract from the things that truly are important. Structure is valuable, but don't take it too far. So I'm going to give you a useful trick, maybe not a trick, but a useful question to ask yourself in times where you don't know the balance, the optimal balance between seeking enjoyment and fun, having structure, and then not letting your structure detract from your enjoyment, general enjoyment in your life, and from your main goals. So trying to balance these two things, structure and general enjoyment and maximum benefits in the thing that is most important to you. So trying to balance those two things. So having structure, but not taking it too far. Doing effective things, but not optimizing extensively and to the point where it detracts. Okay, so here's the useful question. This question comes from my girlfriend. It's a very, very clever thing. I was really blown away when she told me it. So she says that she asks herself, would I be able to stick to this decision for the rest of my life? So if she's thinking, you know what, I shouldn't have this waffle because this waffle is going to make me fat, or this waffle is going to bugger up my diet, and then once I lose my diet, then I won't be able to stick to the diet, and then I'll always be fat, or I'll get fat, or whatever the problem is. So when you're thinking, I shouldn't have this waffle, and these are the things that come to your mind, if you would be able to stick to that decision for the rest of your life, then she says, have that decision, make that decision, because you can stick to it. So if you can go without waffles for the rest of your life, then fine, cut them out in that moment. But it's more than likely that you won't be able to. And so now, in those specific cases when you aren't able to stick to this thing forever, that's when you can try and balance enjoyment and efficacy. You can try and balance structure from being extensive to just enough so that it helps you. So this way, you tend towards a healthy lifestyle, but you don't take it too far by making sure that you only stick to things that are sustainable in the long run. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.